Alright, now that you hopefully have an understanding of what coins are and how do you get them, let's talk about the uses. And if you have no idea how coins work, be sure to check the first video I put out about servant coins. There is even a playlist for these for your convenience. In this part, we will specifically be talking about the Grailing side of coin usage. So if you want to know about append skills or grail casting, stay tuned for the other videos I will be posting later. And as always, make sure you are subscribed to not miss out on any of the uploads. Okay, before we tackle the entire costs of grailing a servant past level 100, let's talk about how grails work for these levels. You might have guessed it, it's the same requirement for grails as it is between 90 and 100. So one grail still equals 2 more levels for a servant. Quick maths, this means you need a further 10 grails if you want to go all the way to 120 for a servant first of all. But, unlike previous grailings, you will also need coins, including grails, for every 2 levels you want to go up. So for every 2 levels past level 100, you will need those aforementioned 2 grails, and now also 30 coins of the servant. With quick maths, you will need 300 coins of the servant and 10 holy grails for level 120. Okay, next up, let's talk about the other costs, aka QP and EXP required obviously. And if you haven't seen these numbers before, they might shock you, as levels at this point start to become very costly. However, at least in terms of maths, one thing makes it very simple to understand and remember. And by that I mean is that I can happily report that unlike prior levels up to level 100, every level past it has the exact same requirements. They don't scale up at all. So I'll just show it to you. Every single level past level 100 will cost you 16 million QP and 627 matching 4-star class EXP or 753 non-matching class 4-star EXP. Now in terms of 5-star EXP, you would need 209 matching class 5-star EXP or 251 non-matching class 5-star EXP. Again, keep in mind all of this is for one level past 100, and this is only for the leveling part, not the grailing. So let me present these numbers in chunks to really make things easy. For every 2 levels past level 100, this is all the stuff you need. 1 holy grail, 30 coins of the servant, 47 million QP, 1254 matching class 4-star EXP or 1505 non-matching class 4-star EXP or 418 matching class 5-star EXP or 502 non-matching class 5-star EXP. Also at this point it should be obvious, but I really want to point it out too. Don't bother using 1 to 3-star EXP at this point. That's why I'm only including the numbers for 4 and 5-star EXP. And just in case that didn't convince you how expensive and time consuming it is to go past level 100, let me show you the total costs from level 100 to 120 on the screen now. 10 holy grails, 300 coins of the servant, 503 million QP, 12,538 matching class 4-star EXP or 15,046 non-matching class 4-star EXP or 4,179 matching class 5-star EXP or 5,015 non-matching class 5-star EXP. A lot of people don't realize how massive the costs are, so take this in for a second, and also remember that this is just for one servant and only the levels from 100 to 120. Next, let's talk about the minimum amount of copies you need of a servant from the Gacha to have enough coins to unlock level 120 without including append skills. This part might take a while because I'm going to be thorough, but feel free to only check the rarities that you are interested about. For this, I will include bond levels at intervals of 5, 10, and 15. It should be noted though that for many of these you could go between these bond levels depending on your copies and still do fine. I'm just showing 3 different intervals here to not clutter the video too much. For Andrimayu, you will need a minimum of 6 copies of him at bond level 5. For bond 10, you would need at least 5 copies of him, and with bond 15, you will still need at least 3 copies of him. And keep in mind that his gacha coins are not retroactive, so these need to be fresh copies summoned after the system is live. For a limited 1-star, you will need a minimum of 19 copies at bond 5, at least 15 copies at bond 10, and at least 8 copies at bond 15. For a permanent 1-star servant, you will need a minimum of 138 copies at bond 5, at least 110 copies at bond 10, and at least 60 copies at bond 15. For a 2-star servant, you will need a minimum of 46 copies at bond 5, at least 37 copies at bond 10, and at least 20 copies at bond 15. For a story-locked or limited 3-star servant, you will need a minimum of 10 copies at bond 5, at least 8 copies at bond 10, and at least 4 copies at bond 15. For a permanent 3-star servant, you will need a minimum of 19 copies at bond 5, at least 15 copies at bond 10, and at least 8 copies at bond 15. Now for the next ones, keep in mind you get coins retroactively, so if you've summoned them in the past, you will already have a head start. For a story-locked or limited 4-star servant, you will need a minimum of 6 copies at bond 5, at least 5 copies at bond 10, and at least 3 copies at bond 15. For a permanent 4-star servant, you will need a minimum of 10 copies at bond 5, at least 8 copies at bond 10, and at least 4 copies at bond 15. For any kind of 5-star servant, you will need a minimum of 4 copies at bond 5, at least 3 copies at bond 10, and at least 2 copies at bond 15. But it's also worth noting that 2 copies is enough also at bond 12 for 5 stars. So that's how many coins you need from the gacha of all different rarities and sub-rarities. And once again, I have to remind that for non-welfare golds, your past summons already grant you coins when the update goes live. And again, that is only for a level 120 servant. This does not include appends at all. The math for those and the combined math for both of these upgrades will be in the next video. And as parting thoughts, going back to the previous topic, I highly recommend only using 5-star EXP for Grailing past level 100, even if I included the numbers for 4-star EXP too. We don't know when the 5-star EXP daily quests will arrive, but they teased that they will happen soon too, and my guess is on the upcoming anniversary at the start of July, so you might want to hold off on your big Grail plans a little while longer if you want to make your life a lot easier. With that, I conclude this video. Be sure to comment below if you have any questions. Stay tuned for the next part where we talk about not only the requirements for unlocking append skills for servants, but also the value of different appends for all kinds of different servants and uses. And of course, you can expect to see a lot more math. If you found this video helpful, do me a solid and press the like button, and also share this with your friends that might be interested. And make sure you are subscribed. I'm gonna try my best to have the next part out soon too. With that, have a great rest of your day. Peace out.